The stars outside the observation window looked peaceful, but Captain John Miller knew better. Space was never truly peaceful. It only pretended to be calm before something terrible happened. He stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Pioneer, watching his crew work at their stations. The ship hummed quietly around them, its engines pushing them deeper into unexplored space. This was humanity's latest attempt to make friends in the galaxy, though most alien species barely noticed them. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings," Lieutenant Amy Watson said from her console. She was young, only 25, but one of the best sensor operators in the fleet. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried to understand what she was seeing. Miller walked over to her station. "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures. Big ones. They just appeared out of nowhere." Watson's voice was steady, but Miller could hear the worry underneath. "Sir, I think they're ships." Before Miller could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. 3 massive vessels emerged from hyperspace, their hulls black as the void between stars. They were unlike anything humanity had ever built, sleek, predatory, and clearly designed for war. "All hands battle stations," Miller shouted, though he knew it was useless. The Pioneer was a science vessel. They had basic weapons for dealing with pirates, but nothing that could scratch those monsters. The main screen flickered to life, showing an alien face. It had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the universal translator struggled with the harsh sounds. "Humans," the alien said, making the word sound like an insult. "You have entered Krellian space. You will be removed." Miller stepped forward. "This is Captain John Miller of the Earth vessel Pioneer. We're on a peaceful exploration mission. We didn't know this was your territory. We'll leave immediately." The alien's 4 eyes narrowed. "No. You are contamination. You spread too fast. Like disease. The Krellian Empire cleanses disease." The transmission cut off. A second later, the alien ships opened fire. The Pioneer shook violently as energy beams struck its hull. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Watson was thrown from her chair, blood running down her face from a cut on her forehead. "Shields are failing," shouted Lieutenant Commander Robert Chen from the engineering station. "Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Miller helped Watson back to her seat, then ran to his command chair. "Return fire. All weapons." The Pioneer's few laser cannons fired back, but the beams just splashed harmlessly against the alien shields. It was like throwing pebbles at a tank. "Sir, we can't hurt them," Chen reported. "Our weapons aren't strong enough." Miller knew they were going to die, but maybe their death could mean something. "Watson, can you get a message to Earth?" Watson wiped blood from her eyes and worked her console. "I can try, sir. The subspace transmitter is still working." "Do it. Tell them what happened here. Tell them—" Miller paused as another blast rocked the ship. Somewhere behind him, someone screamed. "Tell them the galaxy thinks we're weak. Tell them to prove the galaxy wrong." Watson's fingers flew over her controls. "Message away, Captain. It'll reach Earth in about 3 hours." Another blast hit the Pioneer, and this time something essential broke. The lights went out, replaced by the red glow of emergency power. The humming of the engines stopped. "Main power is gone," Chen reported. "Life support failing. We have maybe 10 minutes of air left." Miller looked around at his bridge crew. They were all so young. Humanity had sent its best and brightest to explore the stars, and now they were going to die in the cold darkness of space. "It's been an honor serving with all of you," he said quietly. The Krellian ships fired again. This time the Pioneer's hull cracked open like an egg. 3 hours later on Earth, the message arrived at Space Command headquarters. Admiral Lisa Johnson was working late in her office when her aide burst through the door. "Admiral, we've lost contact with the Pioneer, but they sent this." The young man handed her a data pad. Johnson read the message, her face growing harder with each word. She was 70 years old, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. For 40 years, she'd been warning people that space wasn't safe, that humanity needed to be ready for war. Most people had called her paranoid. Now she knew she'd been right. She stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the Rocky Mountains. "How many crew on the Pioneer?" 83, ma'am. 83 lives. 83 humans who had gone to the stars with hope and dreams only to be murdered by aliens who saw them as disease. Johnson turned back to her aide. Get me the president and contact General Cooper. Tell him it's time for Project Leviathan. The aide's eyes widened. Ma'am, are you sure? The Krellians just declared war on humanity. They think we're weak. They think we're nothing. Johnson's voice was like iron. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that didn't exist on any official records, lights began to turn on. Engineers who had trained in secret for years received emergency calls. Scientists who had spent decades preparing for this moment grabbed their equipment and headed underground. Project Leviathan was waking up. Commander Paul Davis was the first to arrive at the facility. He'd been waiting for this call his entire career. As he entered his security codes and took the elevator down to the deepest level, he thought about the Pioneers' crew. He hadn't known any of them personally, but they were still family. All humans in space were family. The elevator doors opened, revealing a cavern so large you couldn't see the other end, and there, sitting in its cradle like a sleeping giant, was humanity's answer to the galaxy's arrogance. The Leviathan was over a kilometer long, its hull dark and angular. It bristled with weapons that no other species knew humans possessed. It was powered by technologies that the galaxy thought were impossible. It was humanity's secret fist, built for the day when someone finally pushed them too far. That day had come. Davis walked to the control room, where other personnel were already arriving. Chief Engineer Susan Lee was powering up systems that had been dormant for years. Weapons Specialist Mike Brown was running diagnostics on targeting computers. Ladies and gentlemen, Davis announced, the Krellians just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They attacked humanity, they killed our people, and they thought that was the end of it. He looked at the massive warship through the control room window. Time to show them what humans do to those who hurt our family. The underground facility stretched for miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. Commander Paul Davis walked through corridors that few humans even knew existed. The walls were lined with thick steel and concrete, designed to survive a direct nuclear blast. But they weren't built to keep things out. They were built to keep something in. Davis reached the main control room where his team was already working. The room was filled with the glow of dozens of screens and holographic displays. Through a massive window, they could see the Leviathan sitting in its underground dock. Status report, Davis ordered. Chief Engineer Susan Lee looked up from her console. She was a small woman with graying hair, but her mind was sharper than people half her age. Primary fusion reactors are warming up. It'll take 6 hours to reach full power. The magnetic containment fields are stable. 6 hours is too long, Davis said. The president wants us ready in 3. Lee shook her head. Sir, this ship hasn't moved in 20 years. If we rush the startup sequence, we could have a containment breach. That means a fusion explosion that would take out half of Colorado. Davis thought about the Pioneers' crew, floating dead in space. Do what you can to speed it up safely, but I want this ship ready to launch. Weapons Specialist Mike Brown called out from his station. Commander, I've got good news. All weapon systems are showing green. The graviton pulse cannons are operational. Quantum torpedoes are loaded and ready. What about the displacement field generator? Davis asked. Brown grinned. Ready to make. Enemy ships wish they'd never been built, sir. The displacement field generator was humanity's most closely guarded secret. It could create pockets of twisted space-time that would literally tear enemy vessels apart at the molecular level. The aliens thought their shields were invincible. They were about to learn otherwise. Admiral Lisa Johnson arrived 2 hours later, flanked by a squad of Marines. She walked with purpose, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. Everyone in the control room stood at attention. As you were, Johnson said. Status report, Commander. Davis briefed her on their progress. The Leviathan was waking up faster than expected. All systems were coming online without major issues. The crew was arriving and taking their stations. Good, Johnson said. She walked to the window and stared at the massive battleship. Do you know why we called it Leviathan, Commander? No, ma'am. It's from an old Earth story. a sea monster so powerful that nothing could defeat it. The ancient peoples thought it was just a myth, a legend to frighten children. She turned to face the room. The galaxy thinks humanity is weak. They think our stories of warriors and heroes are just myths. Today, we show them that our myths have teeth. Captain Kate Morgan entered the control room. She was tall, with short blonde hair and eyes like steel. At 38, she was one of the youngest captains in the fleet, but also one of the best. Johnson had personally chosen her to command the Leviathan. Captain Morgan reporting for duty, Admiral. Johnson nodded. The ship is yours, Captain. Make us proud. Morgan saluted and turned to the crew. All right, people, let's get our girl ready to fly. I want all department heads on the ship in 30 minutes. We're doing a full systems check as soon as the reactors are hot. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Engineers swarmed over the Leviathan, checking every system, every connection, every weapon. The massive fusion reactors deep in the ship's core reached operating temperature, their contained stars providing unimaginable power. Navigation Officer Janet Kim ran simulations on the hyperspace drive. Sir, I've plotted a course to the last known position of the Pioneer. Journey time will be 14 hours at maximum speed. Weapons check complete, Brown reported. All systems operational, ammunition loaded. We're carrying enough firepower to crack a moon. Medical Officer Dr. James Park finished setting up the ship's hospital. Medical bay ready, though I hope we won't need it. Shield generators online, announced Chief Engineer Lee. Our displacement shield is something new. Instead of just blocking attacks, it bends space around the ship. Enemy fire literally cannot touch us. 3 hours and 47 minutes after Davis gave the first orders, the Leviathan was ready. All hands, this is Captain Morgan. Her voice echoed through the ship's communication system. In a few minutes, we will launch. Our mission is simple. Find the aliens who destroyed the Pioneer and show them what happens when you attack humanity. They think we're primitive. They think we're weak. Let's prove them wrong. The launch sequence began. Above them, massive doors built into the mountain began to open. Dust and debris fell as mechanisms that hadn't moved in decades groaned to life. Anti-gravity generators online, reported the helm officer. Lifting off in 3, 2, 1. The Leviathan rose from its cradle. The kilometer-long battleship moved with surprising grace, its anti-gravity systems making it weightless. It climbed through the mountain shaft, emerging into the Colorado night. All across Earth, people looked up as the massive ship rose into the sky. Its dark hull blocked out the stars, a shadow against the night. News channels interrupted their programs to show the incredible sight. My God, whispered a reporter. What is that thing? The Leviathan continued to climb, its engines glowing, blue-white as it gained altitude. Military satellites tracked its progress as it left Earth's atmosphere and entered space. On the bridge, Captain Morgan sat in her command chair. The crew worked with quiet efficiency around her. Through the main view screen, she could see the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krellians were probably laughing about their easy victory over the human ship. Navigation, set course for the Pioneers. Last position, maximum hyperspace velocity. Course laid in, Captain. Engineering, all power to hyperspace drive. Hyperspace drive ready, Captain. Morgan took a deep breath. All hands prepare for hyperspace jump. Let's go hunting. The space in front of the Leviathan began to ripple. Reality twisted as the hyperspace drive activated. Then, in a flash of light, the battleship vanished. The hunt had begun. Back on Earth, Admiral Johnson watched the tracking screens as the Leviathan disappeared into hyperspace. She thought about the message Captain Miller had sent before he died. They think we're weak. Prove them wrong. We will, Captain, she whispered. We will. The Krellian Empire was vast, spanning 40 star systems across the galaxy. On their capital world of Krell Prime, Commander Zektar reviewed the reports from the human sector. His 4 eyes scanned the data with satisfaction. The human vessel has been destroyed, he reported to his superior, War Master Vraktor. 83 humans eliminated. The infection has been stopped. Fraktor's gray skin rippled with pleasure. Good. These humans spread too quickly, like bacteria in a dish. Better to eliminate them before they become a real problem. Should we attack their homeworld? Zektar asked. No need. They have only primitive ships. They cannot threaten us. Let them cower on their little planet. Fraktor turned to leave, then paused. But keep watch on their space. If they send more ships, destroy them. Neither of them noticed the strange reading on their long-range sensors. Something big had just entered their territory. The Leviathan emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Krellian space. The massive battleship hung in the void, its sensors scanning everything within 100 light-years. Captain, I'm detecting the debris field, Lieutenant Frank Taylor reported from his sensor station. It's the Pioneer, ma'am, or what's left of her. Captain Kate Morgan's jaw tightened. Life signs? None, Captain, they're all gone. The bridge fell silent. Everyone had known the Pioneer's crew was dead, but confirming it still hurt. Scan for Krellian ships, Morgan ordered. I want to know everything about their fleet positions, patrol routes, and bases. Scanning now, Captain. I'm picking up... Wait. Taylor's eyes widened. Captain, we have incoming. 3 Krellian destroyers closing fast. Battle stations, Morgan said calmly. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to engage the enemy. Remember the Pioneer. Remember our dead. Make them pay. Alarms sounded throughout the ship as the crew prepared for combat. In the weapons bay, Mike Brown activated the targeting systems. In engineering, Susan Lee pushed the reactors to full power. The Krellian ships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons already charging. On their lead ship, Captain Kelmar laughed when he saw the human vessel. One ship? They send one ship to fight us? He turned to his weapons officer. Destroy it quickly. I want to be home for evening meal. Open a channel, Morgan ordered. When the connection established, she stood from her chair. I am Captain Kate Morgan of the battleship Leviathan. You destroyed our exploration vessel. You murdered our people. This is your one chance to surrender. Kelmar's 4 eyes blinked in amusement. Surrender? To you? Foolish human. You are nothing. Fire all weapons. The 3 Krellian ships unleashed their full firepower. Dozens of energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the Leviathan. Any normal ship would have been vaporized instantly. But the Leviathan wasn't normal. The displacement shield activated, bending space around the ship. The enemy fire simply curved away, missing the battleship entirely. Some shots bent so much they hit empty space behind the Leviathan. What? Kelmar stared at his screens in confusion. That's impossible. Our weapons can't miss. Our turn, Morgan said. Mr. Brown, return fire, standard weapons only. Save the special toys for later. The Leviathan's conventional weapons spoke. Laser cannons and railguns targeted the Krellian ships with computer-perfect accuracy. The alien shields flickered and died under the assault. Shields failing. Kelmar's officer shouted. Their weapons are too powerful. Impossible. We have the best shields in the galaxy. The lead Krellian ship exploded as railgun rounds punched through its reactor core. The other 2 ships tried to flee, but the Leviathan's weapons tracked them perfectly. Within minutes, all 3 destroyers were expanding clouds of debris. Captain, Taylor reported, I'm picking up communications from all over Krellian space. They're panicking. No one has ever destroyed their ships this easily. Morgan nodded. Good. Let them panic. Plot a course for their nearest military base. Time to send a message. The Krellian base at Outpost 7 was home to 50 warships. When the Leviathan arrived, Admiral Groktar couldn't believe his sensors. 1 human ship destroyed 3 of our destroyers, he demanded. Bring the entire fleet online. I want that ship turned to atoms. 50 Krellian warships surrounded the Leviathan, weapons charging. On any other day, it would have been overkill. Today, it wasn't nearly enough. Captain, Brown said, request permission to use the graviton pulse cannons. Granted. Target their command ships first. The graviton pulse cannons were another human innovation. They fired concentrated beams of gravitational energy that could crush a ship like a tin can. When they fired, space itself seemed to ripple. 5 Krellian battleships simply crumpled, their hulls collapsing inward as gravity increased 1,000-fold at their location. The other ships opened fire desperately, but again the displacement shield made their weapons useless. "Quantum torpedoes," Morgan ordered. "Full spread." The Leviathan launched a wave of torpedoes that phased in and out of normal space, making them impossible to intercept. They materialized inside the Krellian shields and detonated. More alien ships died in flames. In 20 minutes, the entire Krellian fleet was gone. Outpost 7 burned in space. On Krell Prime, emergency sessions of the High Command convened. War Master Vraktor stared at the reports in disbelief. One ship? One human ship did this? Yes, War Master. They call it the Leviathan. Our weapons cannot touch it. Its weapons destroy our strongest ships with ease. For the first time in centuries, Vraktor felt fear. Send everything. Every ship we have. I want that human vessel destroyed. War Master, an aide interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human ship. Captain Morgan's face appeared on their screens. Her expression was cold as space itself. Krellian Empire, I am Captain Morgan of the Leviathan. You called us weak. You called us disease. You murdered our people. Now we hunt. We are coming for your capital. We are coming for your leaders. You have seen what one human ship can do. Imagine what happens when we build more. The transmission ended. Across the Krellian Empire, panic spread like wildfire. The humans weren't weak. They weren't primitive. They were terrifying. And they were coming. The Krellian capital system was a fortress. 3,000 warships gathered around Krell Prime, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Defense platforms the size of cities floated in space, bristling with weapons. Minefields stretched. For millions of kilometers, Emperor Vextor himself took command from his throne ship, the Dominator. The ancient ruler had led the Krellian Empire for over 200 years. He had never lost a war. Let this human ship come, he declared to his admirals. When we destroy it, the galaxy will see that the Krellian Empire remains supreme. No single vessel can stand against our might. His admirals cheered, but some of them hid their doubts. They had seen the reports. 50 ships destroyed in 20 minutes. Weapons that defied physics. Shields that couldn't be breached. Emperor, Admiral Zartek spoke carefully. Perhaps we should consider their offer. The humans might accept a peace treaty. Silence. Vextor's 4 eyes blazed with anger. We do not make peace with insects. Ready all weapons. When the human ship arrives, we annihilate it. The Leviathan appeared at the edge of the system exactly when Captain Morgan said it would. No attempt at stealth. No tricks. Just one human battleship against an empire's might. Captain, I'm reading 3,000 enemy vessels, Lieutenant Taylor reported, his voice steady despite the odds, plus orbital defenses and minefields. Morgan studied the tactical display. They brought everything. Good. We can finish this in one battle. She activated ship-wide communications. All hands, this is the captain. We face the entire Krellian fleet today. They outnumber us 3,000 to 1. But we have something they don't. We have the fury of humanity. We have justice for our fallen. Today, we end their empire. Executive. Officer Chris Williams stood beside her chair. All stations report ready, Captain. The crew is with you. Helm, take us in. Attack pattern Omega. The Leviathan accelerated toward the Krellian fleet, thousands of alien weapons locked onto the human ship. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. Fire, Emperor Vextor commanded. 3,000 ships fired at once. The space around the Leviathan turned white with energy. Beams, missiles, plasma bolts, and weapons humanity had never seen before all converged on one target. The displacement shield flared to life. Space bent and twisted around the Leviathan. The massive barrage of fire curved away, missing the ship entirely. Some shots bent so severely they struck Krellian vessels instead. Impossible, Vextor stood from his throne. Increase firepower. All weapons, continuous fire. But it was useless. The Leviathan sailed through the storm of death untouched. Return fire, Morgan ordered. All weapons free. Show them human engineering. The Leviathan's arsenal unleashed hell. Graviton pulse. Cannons crushed battleships like paper. Quantum torpedoes phased through shields and detonated inside enemy hulls. Railguns fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, punching through multiple ships with each shot. But the true demonstration came when Dr. Helen White activated humanity's ultimate weapon. Captain, quantum cascade device is charged. And ready, she reported from the weapons lab. Morgan watched the tactical display. The Krellian ships were bunched together trying to concentrate their firepower. Perfect. Target the center of their formation. Fire. The quantum cascade device was humanity's most terrifying creation. It destabilized the quantum structure of matter itself, creating a chain reaction that spread from ship to ship. A strange pulse emanated from the Leviathan. Where it touched, Krellian ships began to dissolve. Not explode, not break apart. They simply ceased to exist, their atoms unraveling. At the quantum level, the effect spread like a virus, jumping from vessel to vessel. In less than a minute, a third of the Krellian fleet was gone. Not destroyed, erased from reality. By the gods, Admiral Zartek whispered. What are these humans? Panic spread through the remaining Krellian ships. Some tried to flee, breaking formation. Others fired wildly, hoping to hit something. The organized fleet became a chaos of terror. The Leviathan pressed its attack. Its point defense systems created a web of death around it, shooting down any missile or fighter that came close. Its main guns continued their deadly work, picking off Krellian ships with mechanical precision. Emperor Vextor watched his invincible fleet die. Ships that had conquered worlds, that had ruled space for centuries, were being swatted like flies. His throne ship shook as human weapons found their mark. Emperor, shields are failing, an officer reported. Hull breaches on multiple decks. This cannot be, Vextor muttered. We are the Krellian Empire. We are supreme. A quantum torpedo phased through the Dominator's shields and detonated near the bridge. The explosion sent Vextor flying from his throne. When he struggled to his feet, half the bridge was gone, open to space. Only emergency force fields kept the air in. Through the breach, he could see the Leviathan approaching. The human battleship was untouched, not a single scratch on its dark hull. Around it, the wreckage of the Krellian fleet drifted in space. Communication channel opened. Captain Morgan appeared on the surviving screens. Emperor Vextor, she said. Your fleet is broken. Your empire is finished. Do you yield? Vextor's 4 eyes met her too. For the first time in his long life, he truly understood fear. What are you? He whispered. We are humanity, Morgan replied. The species you thought too primitive to matter. The people you murdered without a second thought. We are your reckoning. Please. Vextor fell to his knees. Mercy. We surrender. The Krellian Empire surrenders. Morgan was silent for a long moment. Behind her, the bridge crew waited. They remembered the Pioneer. They remembered their dead friends floating in space. You showed no mercy to our explorers, Morgan finally said, but we are not you. We accept your surrender. The Krellian Empire will disarm. Your warships will be scrapped. You will pay reparations to humanity and apologize to the galaxy for your crimes. Yes, Vextor gasped. Anything. Just, please. No more. The battle was over. In 3 hours, one human ship had defeated the greatest fleet in the galaxy. The myth had become reality, and the stars would never be the same. On the Leviathan's bridge, Morgan sat back in her chair. Taylor, send word to Earth. The Krellian Empire has fallen. Justice is served. As the message went out, she thought of Captain Miller and the Pioneer's crew. They were avenged, but more importantly, humanity had shown the galaxy its true strength. The hunt was over. The myth had won. 6 months after the fall of the Krellian Empire, the galaxy had changed forever. On the space station Harmony Point, representatives from 100 different species gathered for a historic meeting. They all wanted to meet the humans who had done the impossible. Ambassador Grace Turner stood before the assembly. She was a small woman with kind eyes, chosen to represent humanity's peaceful intentions. Behind her, Captain Kate Morgan and Admiral Lisa Johnson watched quietly. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Grace began, "humanity comes before you not as conquerors but as protectors. We have proven our strength. Now we wish to prove our wisdom." The Altarian ambassador, a tall blue-skinned being, stood up. "The Krellians terrorized us for generations. You defeated them in days. How?" Morgan stepped forward. "We didn't just build a warship. We built hope. Every human scientist, engineer, and dreamer contributed to the Leviathan. When the Krellians attacked us, they united our entire species in purpose." "Will you rule us now?" asked another ambassador, fearfully. "No," Grace said firmly. "Humanity proposes something different. The Leviathan will patrol the galaxy, protecting all peaceful species. We ask nothing in return except friendship." Murmurs filled the assembly. This was unprecedented, the strongest military power offering protection without demanding tribute or submission. On Earth, the world celebrated. Children played with toy Leviathans. Schools taught the story of the pioneer's sacrifice and humanity's response. The crew of the Pioneer received the highest honors, their names carved into monuments. Engineer Tom Baker led tours of the Leviathan for alien visitors. "This technology isn't just human," he explained to a group of reptilian scientists. "We learned from every species we met. We just combined things differently. Where you saw weapons, we saw tools. Where you built walls, we built bridges." The Leviathan became a symbol across the galaxy. Pirates fled at rumors of its presence. Worlds under threat called for its help. And humanity always answered. 1 year later, Captain Morgan stood on the bridge of the Leviathan as it patrolled the trade routes. Her executive officer, Chris Williams, brought her the daily reports. 3 pirate attacks prevented. 2 natural disasters where we provided aid. 1 first contact with a new species, he summarized. Morgan smiled. A good week's work. At Earth's shipyards, 3 more vessels took shape. The Colossus, the Titan, and the Phoenix would join the Leviathan in protecting the galaxy. Commander Betty Stewart had been chosen to captain the Colossus. "The galaxy called our strength a myth," she told her crew during their first briefing. "Now our myths guard their sleep." In schools across known space, children learned new stories. Not just of conquest and power, but of the humans who chose protection over domination. Teachers explained how humanity turned their greatest weapon into the galaxy's shield. "They could have ruled us all," an old Krellian teacher told his students, his 4 eyes dim with age. "Instead, they chose to guard us. That is true strength." Young pilots dreamed of serving on human ships. Scientists studied human innovation, methods. Philosophers debated the human concept of turning swords into plowshares. The word spread to the farthest reaches of space. Humanity was watching. The Star Hunters, they were called. Not because they hunted the weak, but because they hunted those who would harm the innocent. On the 5th anniversary of the Pioneer's destruction, a memorial was held in deep space. Ships from every species attended. Captain Miller and his crew were honored not just as humanity's martyrs, but as the galaxy's heroes. Morgan gave the memorial speech. "They died reaching for the stars in peace. We answered with strength. But strength without wisdom is mere violence. Today humanity pledges to be both sword and shield for all who seek peace among the stars." As the ceremony ended, a child from a species humanity had saved from raiders asked Morgan a question. "Will the bad ones ever come back?" Morgan knelt to the child's level. "Perhaps, but when they do, remember this. The humans are watching. Our myths walk among the stars, and we protect our friends." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never underestimate humanity, for in their myths lay the power to reshape the universe itself. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the Leviathan continued its eternal patrol, a myth made real, a guardian among the stars.